Welcome back to Signs and Headlines, a weekly-ish pop culture and astrology recap. I'm your host, Tasha at the Pop Astrologist. And because we had so much fun on our Kamala Harris episode, definitely go check that out. Welcome back, Lexie, to the
Hello,
channel.
everyone. Thank you so much, Tasha, for having me.
Oh my God, that was so fun. It's like, let's run it back. Let's like do some headlines this time.
Exactly. Oh, and this is going to be so much fun. I'm like super excited.
What big week, honestly. Like we chose a
Yeah.
week to start really, but this was
Right.
a new moon in Libra week, but not only just a Libra new moon week, we
Yes.
had Mercury, Mars in Scorpio, Neptune moving back into Pisces, Sun, Pluto, Grand Water Trine. Like there was a lot in the air. How are
Yes.
you feeling? How are you feeling
I'm
this week?
actually feeling what's so funny is like, so for me, my Mars is already in Scorpio, and
Ooh.
then and so when that moved back in, it kind of gave me a new like lease on life. I felt
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm feeling lined up, you know? So for me, it actually kind of gave me this like new energy, a new life. I felt a little bit, and probably because of the Grand Water Trine, I felt a little bit like out of sorts, a little bit, where it's
Mhm.
like, okay, I can't grasp what like I feel motivated, but what am I motivated to do?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think a little bit of that is kind of happening, but how did it show up for you this week? How are
Oh
you
my
feeling?
gosh. You know what? I can kind of feel the same thing, but it was hilarious because I literally after we had recorded,
Yeah.
I then went off to a bachelorette in Vegas. So we
Oh,
spent the dark of the moon, and I'm a Scorpio rising. So all of this is like, 12th house. And I was like, oh
mm,
my God, how is this gonna go? Like, is there
yes.
gonna be some, I don't know, chaos, drama? Because it's bachelorette style, right?
Yes.
But it was actually amazing. And I think I was like, my filter was the problem, going
Yeah.
into it, the fear of how this was gonna go. And it turned
Yeah.
out to be so amazing. So,
Oh,
I think that was a big moment for me too. Mars just moved over my ascendant. So I'm a 20-degree Scorpio
oh,
rising.
oh,
So the
wow.
Scorpio
Okay.
placements are just coming out over the ascendant for me. So I'm just waking up. I'm
Yes,
feeling what you're
exactly.
feeling.
Right. Well, hello, wake up.
Here we are. What's actually really hilarious was this is like a personal anecdote. We had the Mercury Mars conjunction in Scorpio to start
Mhm.
off the week, like overnight
Yeah.
in Monday, October 20th. And you normally feel the transits like build up, in the couple of days, like when they're applying to the exact conjunction. That's usually when you feel the most intensity.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I had literally gone to a David Copperfield magic show with this Mercury Mars applying to my natal Pluto at 17 and on the
Oh my
ascendant.
goodness.
And I'm thinking, okay, magic, this makes sense. And we were all dressed as coven, like witches. So it felt like another life coming out. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Yes.
Vibes. And what was amazing was David Copperfield's show. I didn't expect to cry, but he was talking about losing his dad early on. And the whole show was really like grief and chasing the impossible. And I lost my dad early on. And so with Mercury and Mars on my Pluto, it felt like a really beautiful catharsis moment. Even though I have done the grief work, I feel really good about my relationship with my dad now, but
Yeah.
it just kind of pulled something deeper out of me. And that's also what I would want to share with people. There is a lot of water energy. It's Scorpio season. The veil is so thin,
Yeah.
and you might be getting in touch with feelings that might be taking you by surprise, as if you thought this was already handled, but
Yeah, yeah.
there's
A
still
new
more.
layer is coming up
Hmm.
100%. And that's that
Hmm.
about that Scorpio energy. There's always more to dig deeper into, you know? And so that's where it's like, yes, you might have moved through whatever grief, whatever secrets, whatever kind of things that you've already dealt with, but
Hmm.
there's always going to be this new layer, and that's what Scorpio brings to us, is this opportunity to dive even deeper into what we've already thought we kind of transformed from.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whenever someone says it's not that deep, in my head, I'm like,
Like,
yeah, it's deeper, actually. You
exactly.
right. You right, Taurus, because Taurus is
Right,
always
because
say that to
Taurus
me.
is right. Exactly.
But before I slander Tauruses, okay, I just want to say Tauruses can be very deep, and it's the idea of not bypassing the depth. Like
Yeah.
you distill the wisdom from the deep to get you like that chicken soul essence, where it's like, duh, that's such a simple way of approaching it, but it has come as a function of excavation and
Yes.
understanding.
Exactly, exactly. It's so funny you said that because I was raised by a Scorpio and a Taurus.
Oh,
So
stop.
I know I don't recommend it. My mom's a Scorpio and then my dad's a Taurus. And
Oh my God.
geez, are they like, oh my God. It's literally watching like all of it come to play. I mean, if I didn't believe in astrology, that their relationship made me believe in
Yeah.
it.
Astrology is real, whether you believe in it or not, you guys.
Exactly. It's
Oh my
real.
gosh. Classic. Okay. I was gonna say too, I forgot to mention this week we also had Mercury enter its shadow period, the like
Yes.
right before the Libra
Right
new
before
moon as well.
right.
Did you have any Mercury retro shady, grady things happen to you this week?
I let me think. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think anything kind
Mm-hmm.
of came up that's
Mm-hmm.
come from like the past. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I do know that it's like I've been stepping into, so I'm a in human design, I'm a manifesting generator. So I have like a million
Love
things going
that.
on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am like the ultimate Renaissance woman. I have a million businesses and all of them kind of thank you going on at the same time. So one of my businesses that has revived itself now is photography. And so,
Ooh.
yeah, exactly. I started this literally 9 years ago. And then, oh no, 10 years ago. Sorry, exactly 10 years ago. I was 29. And then
Mm-hmm.
suddenly I've been getting more opportunities of people being like, hey, do you do photos? I need headshots. I need this. I need that. So I've been like, you know what? I mean, I might as well get paid for it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it. So you're right that it's like technically that did come around that Mercury
Mm-hmm.
and trying to like revisit some of these past hobbies and past passions of mine and past talents. So yeah, I guess I didn't think about that, but that is actually true.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's interesting because usually when a Mercury retrograde comes, I immediately have the signal, I'm not going to work on anything new. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I put the
yeah.
pause on any new idea or new thing I'm trying to like, make
I
happen.
do too.
And then I think, okay, what do my existing clients needs? Like what are things that I thought about doing earlier this year, maybe,
Yeah,
but then never got the time to do because
yeah,
life happened. This was so busy this year. And so for me, it was like kind of like oh, okay, like I am getting a natural sort of hit to like post a little more on like LinkedIn, for example, or like, kind of
yeah.
branch out differently. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely been really interesting. And what I've been telling my clients with this Libra new moon is it's a new beginning, but it's
Yeah.
a new beginning around an old matter.
Exactly.
So it's
Right.
not a clean slate. As much as we want to think of the new moon as this clean slate, because of Mercury's retrograde, a new beginning amidst an old matter, whether it's an old creative project, whether it's even like correcting an old relationship imbalance, right? To like make it, the relationship you would want or the contract you would want before
Right.
jumping
Before you jump
off.
all the way in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that. I love that. I love that so much. I mean, and you said that so well, just starting new partnerships, starting new collaborations and all this other stuff. I definitely have noticed that as well, that it's
Mm-hmm.
that's happening during this time, but it's revisiting old relationships or old connections, or old, not old, but like previous things that I've been doing and
Mm-hmm.
working on for a long time, but it's coming back in a new capacity. So
Mm-hmm.
you're so right about that. That Mercury retrograde is kind of like coloring everything that we do.
I figured, the one event of the week, the Libra new moon, made sense to pull up because we do have, a time for it. It will house all the other transits that we're talking about. Although technically Neptune is still in Aries at this time, Neptune did move into Pisces the day after. Was there anything like particularly interesting about this lunation for you? Or was there, what were you sharing with your clients this week, when thinking about this new moon?
Yeah, well, for me, a lot of issues came up around like old relationships, which again makes sense, Libra energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my clients this week, she went through a relationship for 9 years and then they
Mm-hmm.
broke up. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, that's interesting that that happened, on that ninth year. And then here, we're dealing with this now. And so anyway, so during this time, this happened months ago, but she's still in that grieving process of the relationship. And so during this particular time frame, all of a sudden she started coming up with like just doubts about her part and her, like, what was my role inside of this breakdown of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it was interesting because then I was like, honey, the moon is going new in Libra this week. So this makes a lot of sense that you would find yourself kind of thinking and reflecting back on like, where did I show up in my relationships? And then suddenly our call, which started with just talking about her dynamic in her love relationships, started turning into her relationship with her sister, a business
Mm-hmm.
partner, like all of these things around how she connects with other people. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely saw that kind of coming up with quite a few of my clients where the theme this week was just all about like, how do I connect with people, and what is the like, what is my part in any
Mm-hmm.
breakdown of those connections, which I find to be interesting during a Libra new moon.
Totally. That's really powerful, especially, I mean, you can't help but think, right? Like it's
Mhm.
very Mars and Mercury coded. It's a Libra new moon, but there is Scorpio depth to it. So there's a lot
Yeah.
about accountability. There's a lot about understanding self-sabotagey tendencies,
Yes.
right? Where fear
Yeah.
might be getting in the way. And I really love what you said, about her thinking about her role in her relationships because the Sabian symbol for this new moon had a lot to do or has a lot to do with conscious participation in community, almost as if you are a grown-up sitting at the table now. You're not a kid sitting at the grown-ups
Yes.
table. You are a grown-up sitting at the table, meaning you get to advocate, you get to participate, but you also have to understand when someone gives you feedback, right? It's not an immediately, oh, I'm shutting down. This is not it. It's how can I maybe move past the initial defenses and actually create a more well-rounded, holistic narrative, one that supports more, compromise or space at the table for both of us.
Right, right. How do
Yeah.
I dig deeper than what
Hmm.
this, because it's like Libra energy can sometimes give off a very surfacey kind of energy where it's like I'm really just focused here at the top and I just want to keep it pretty, want to keep it cute. That makes a lot
Hmm.
of sense. But because there's so much Scorpio, there's so much hidden depth happening underneath the surface, people are
Hmm.
now willing to go to that table, sit there and say, how can I be accountable for
Hmm.
the mess that was created inside of the beauty, or where is the beauty inside of the mess? Like now there's more
Hmm.
depth and the questions are going to be different because of what's happening in the skies now, instead of it just being something that you're just going like, okay, I'm just going to kind of leave that behind. You're looking back and actually trying to figure out what's my part, what's my role in this journey.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I will say is this, Lexi and I are speaking about this on like a personal perspective, right? But you can kind of apply what we're saying to the mundane as well.
Mhm.
However, of course, given the timeline that we're in right now,
Yeah.
there with when you think about Libra and Scorpio together, you're thinking naturally about politics, you're thinking about backdoor dealings, you're thinking about things happening in secret. It's hard not to think about the government shutdown and sort of
Yeah.
what's happening discussions wise behind closed doors and the fear as a result of that, right? Like, SNAP or benefits are going down November 1st as that deadline, I think. So,
Yeah.
there is a lot of fear in the air, but it's currently with the Venus in Libra, there's like, oh, but we're discussing.
This
But
conversation.
yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so we're going to start diving into the headlines of the week. So, again, remember our pop culture terrain here does include politics because, these days it's hard not to talk about how politics are affecting all of our lives. And,
Exactly.
there's a lot of intermeshing. So, but before we get into the government shutdown, which we'll definitely discuss later in the episode, the week really started off on Sunday, October 19th. Specifically, the world awoke to the Louvre heist.
What in the
Which
hell? Like, I was like, what decade am I living in? We have
incredible. I was
heists.
I thought it was an Ocean's 12 movie or something, you know? I was just like, okay, yeah, something's happening. And I was like, wait a minute, no, this is serious. Like,
Yes.
I
Oh
was
man.
incredible. And here's the thing, my first thought as an astrologer was elite election with the Mars and Mercury in
Mm,
Scorpio because it's
yeah,
like secret and we're covert and we're spies. But
right.
also, not advice, if
Yeah,
you are a professional heist person, robber, someone who deals in the criminal underground,
sure.
you would always want to commit your acts under a dark moon.
Yes,
I'm just
right.
saying.
They had an astrologer on the team.
I bet. I definitely bet because it's too good. It's like, wow, Dark of the Moon on, and it's so ballsy
Right.
too, right? Because it happened
Yeah.
at like 9:30 a.m. in broad
Yes.
daylight.
Yes, I know. Like what in the cojones?
This is white male confidence on steroids.
Yes.
But it's incredible. But it's incredible. And
So
what's
incredible.
what's also hilarious is obviously as astrologers, right? The first immediate thought was, oh, you went for the royal jewels.
Yeah.
This is so Pluto and Aquarius.
Right. Yes. So Pluto and Aquarius.
Like, why not? Yeah,
Right.
let's go
Yeah.
for that. But I pulled up the chart for 9:30, which is, I guess, the alleged time that they scaled up the, I don't know, like that not the power line, but the ladder that they put out outside
Yeah.
the Louvre to break into the window, which in of itself is like brilliant. Put it on TV immediately, Netflix.
Right. There's gonna be exactly. There's gonna be some kind of show. There is, or movie, something.
Absolutely. BBC, get on it.
Right.
But what was really striking, this is like an astrology cute fact.
Yeah.
The Apollo asteroid happened
Ooh.
to be on the midheaven of the elected chart for this 9:30 a.m. heist.
Oh.
And they actually, so the thieves disguised as construction workers stole 8 pieces of the French crown jewels valued at 88 million euros from Apollo's gallery.
No.
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that.
How
Oh
sick
my
is that?
God. That is like I knew Apollo's gallery, but I didn't know anything about the asteroid too. Like what in the world?
How astro good is this? This is
That is
astro good.
delicious.
You can't make this up. And what's also really cool about this chart is, of course, it's a Scorpio rising chart,
Yes.
covert, yeah, but then all of this activity in the 12th house.
Yes, yeah. I love that, especially some of these personal planets, that it's like really it's gonna be something that's hidden, something, but it's gonna be close to the surface. But so it's not,
Yes.
so it's not like so deep. But yeah, no, love that. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But also Neptune opposing the moon, confusion, like
Confusion, lack of
amidst,
clarity.
yes, but
Yeah.
also 12th house, the collective conscious. It's like everyone can't get enough of it, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, that's so true. That's so true. It was going to impact a lot of people. You're right. It would be the collective consciousness. It would be kind of this hidden, like unbelievable. We can't quite understand how or where or how or why this has
Yeah.
happened. And maybe not even be clear on like where you stand on the issue. Can something
Mm-hmm.
like this be stolen?
Mm-hmm.
When it already is stolen. And
I
so
mean,
things like that. It's like you're gonna have these questions that
mhm.
arise during this thing because of what's happening with the 12th house, so much of it, and in addition of the fact that that Scorpio is rising. Like there's so much that you can say to that.
And you know what's really profound too is what you just mentioned, the idea of can we be really upset at something stolen when it was originally stolen from another culture?
Right.
And, that is layers, right? Like I do think that that is the Scorpio way as well. You're composting, something into another form. And so in this case, it's like we're just like superimposing the theft into another theft.
Into another theft. Exactly. It's like, are you guys really the victim or not? But again, even that question, even asking that is very Scorpio coded, where it's
Hmm.
like Scorpio
Who's the
energy,
real victim?
who's the real victim, right? And Scorpio energy
Hmm.
really can kind of question that a lot. And so that's
Hmm.
where it's like, again, coming right up that it's like, okay, who is the real victim here? Who is actually done wrong in this
Hmm.
situation? And where do you, I I know with so many of my own friends having these conversations, we're on different sides of the aisle a little bit on it, where it's like, I don't really think it was stolen as much as it's just taken and somebody took it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. The karma, it has unfolded. But then I have friends that are like, no, this is thievery. This is so wrong. You're not supposed to do this. And, granted, we
Mm.
have to kind of forget some parts of the history in order to move forward. And in doing that, then we have to hold people accountable. But then it's like, well, where does the accountability start? Why does it start with them? Why doesn't it start with before? Like that, it's
Mm-hmm.
all these, again, Neptunian type of Scorpio type of questions. There's not a clear right or wrong when it comes to this thing when you talk about it on a deeper level. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
if you keep it surface, we know, yes, stealing is wrong. But if you actually dive deeper into the history, that's when all of a sudden it's not as clear as it once was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost the idea of like I think we all understand stealing is wrong, but it's like when people are able to steal and that is the standard, you're like, okay, then that's just like not fair, which
That's
is
not
very
fair.
Venus Libra as well.
Yeah.
It's also
Oh,
very
mhm.
aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say was it was so funny because internet memes, of course, and because we're also in a grand air trine with this configuration. Like, I mean, honestly, like great, really great election. Like
Yes.
really great election for this heist.
Right.
But also the virality of it. Like I would see memes of people saying, wow, the Louvre had no security basically on these super, super precious gemstone, diamonds, jewelry. And I have to literally like fight the CVS person to open like the lock to get my deodorant or
Yeah.
toothpaste. Like
Exactly.
it's showing you different classes of society because this is
Right.
something that I had like been thinking about a lot actually. Like the honor system and the honor code is a privilege afforded to those who are in your stratosphere, in your social elite. If you involve everyone else, then there's no trust, right? So it's very interesting to think about security and the honor code as reflective of privilege and wealth because you don't
Right.
actually you trust
Mhm.
people to not steal from you. You don't
Yep.
trust other people to not steal from you. So there's that conversation in the air as well.
Right. Which I
Hmm.
think is very Scorpio coded as well, because it's also
Hmm.
very that power dynamic, you know what I mean? And so it's like creating that energy around, this like we are the elite, you are not. And therefore, when we feel like we're safe in the elite era or area,
Hmm.
um, we do not need the level of security that we feel like we would need if you were not in the elite. So there's that
Hmm.
dynamic, which I feel is very Scorpio coded. And then I also feel
Hmm.
like this gives this energy of like taking what is okay, taking what is like underground and
Mm.
what you feel is like, can you trust the people that are around you even when they're at the top? Like,
Hmm.
is it okay for it to be so out there, just so bold? Now all of a sudden, even your most sacred things, including
Hmm.
the environment that you're in, where you think because we're so elite, we don't need this kind of security, we don't need that kind of whatever. Even now, that has been broken down and
Hmm.
unearthed. So now
Hmm.
that belief system that you had around it, where that you considered so sacred that this could never happen to someone like you, well, it
Hmm.
just happened. Now what?
Hmm.
But that is
Hmm.
very Scorpio, very like taking off the covers and exposing the vulnerability and being like, hey, you thought you were safe. Well,
Hmm.
are you?
Think again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely. It just the image that comes to mind is like, oh my God, they're clutching their pearls, and I'm like, there's no pearls to clutch
There's
because
no
they've all been
pearls.
stolen. But it does remind me, like Camille and I we'd recorded an episode maybe like a couple of weeks ago, but we had talked about Roxane Gay's op-ed in the New York Times called Civility
Mm,
is a Fantasy. And
yeah.
that coming out, at the beginning of Libra season, opposing Neptune was interesting, right? The idea of like where does civility have a place really in this current modern context when everything is completely built off unequal dynamics?
Yes.
Interesting to think about.
Fascinating. Yeah, exactly. That
Interesting to
is
think
very
about.
interesting.
But what was also really funny about the Louvre heist is this was not the only heist that happened that same day.
Mhm.
Um, funnily enough, there was another heist at the same exact moment, Sunday night, actually, instead of Sunday morning. Around
Mm.
2,000 gold and silver coins worth around 78,000 pounds, 90,000 euros were stolen during a raid at another French museum. It happened at the museum dedicated to a French philosopher. I'm going to butcher this name, Denis Diderot in Londres, northeastern France on Sunday night. And this is the third in basically 2 months because their criminals had broken into the Paris National History Museum, making off with 6 gold nuggets worth around 1.5 million. This was actually during
Oh,
eclipse season, peak
oh,
eclipse season, but someone was actually arrested in Barcelona. Um, so no
wow.
one's been caught from the Louvre heist. No one's been caught from the coins theft, but someone has been caught from the nuggets theft
Wow.
early in September.
Yes, wow. Oh, that's crazy. But I
Isn't
wonder
that?
if will there be um, you know, any accountability for this because of the fact that it happened during a dark moon, that the Scorpio was rising. There's so
Hmm.
much that it's like, will this come to the light when it was done in so much darkness and so much organized? Like, I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah,
honestly. I
yeah.
like again, no one commit a heist as the moon is, getting more light. Okay, the moon's already like balsamic-y this
Yeah, yeah.
weekend.
So don't take our
Um,
advice for that.
yeah. This is already passed. Okay, wait for the next dark moon. But I was like curious, like, oh yeah, when was the last time we had a heist? Okay. And
Yeah.
then literally 1998 was the last time, and it happened on a Sunday as well.
Mm. Oh my
Okay.
goodness. Yeah.
Sunday, May 3rd. So I have the chart for it on the outer wheel
Mhm.
and nothing necessarily to like write home about, although I do think it's fascinating that it happened in, opposing nodal times, like when in Virgo and Pisces, that's kind of in the air. But also, when you think about that happened firmly during Saturn in Aries.
Aries.
And you can only imagine that this probably would have been planned during Saturn and Aries and then now implement. Because like I assume these things take some time to plan,
Of course.
right?
Yeah, of course.
So Saturn just moved back into Pisces in like September. So you could kind of see fingerprints of Saturn and Aries working again.
Right, exactly. Working again. That would make
Hmm.
a lot of sense because, yeah, I definitely think this, you have to, you can't do this and be successful at it without having a plan. And
Yeah.
so definitely the planning would have been happening. It could have been happening, for years, I'm sure. But at the same time, even if not, it's like Saturn and Aries, what was there, just like it was
Hmm.
in 1998. So there is this energy of like going back, taking back things, taking back your
Hmm.
power, fighting for what you believe is yours or what you believe you deserve,
Hmm.
things like that, and having the boldness um, to even do it. That Aries
Hmm.
energy is going to certainly give it to you where you're going to, and that Saturn creates that rebellious energy of like, okay, I'm going to go against maybe what might be perceived to be the right thing to do to get what I feel I deserve or what I feel
Hmm.
is mine or belongs to me or things like that,
Hmm.
which of course, for those people that committed the heist, I'm sure that they believe that they
Yes.
deserve this, so of course that's their mentality around it.
Hmm.
But that would make a lot of like makes so much sense that now when you look back like the mirror between 1998 and today.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was also really interesting is because obviously early in the episode we'd already slandered Taurus Scorpio,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that at that previous heist, Mars was on the sun. It was a Mars Cazimi in Taurus.
Mm.
And, again, you're thinking Taurus Scorpio, at the time, what they had stolen was one piece, basically, a portrait or picture or painting, whatever. I'm not using the correct terminology. Art historians don't come at me, but
Yeah.
it was one thing. It
Yeah.
was one thing versus this is like a few
You
items
think.
as part of the
Yeah.
mix, which is interesting because I think the Eugenie crown, like they kind of let it fall by the wayside as they were running away. Like that crown, incurred some damage, which is also very Neptune moon. Like not everything maybe went smoothly according to plan, but this one, it just felt like there was one painting. It's very Taurus, right? Versus like
Mm.
Scorpio, where maybe there is like not to say more ambition, but with the Libra and the Scorpio, it's like more tag team, more like work together, more
Right.
strategy versus we're focusing all our energy on one thing and doing it
Thing.
very well.
Right, right. Which I that makes so much sense too. You would see the contrast between those two,
Hmm.
where it is a little bit more um tactical and more
Hmm.
whatever versus there might be a little bit of a mess kind of in the more of the Scorpio. But you think of it too, it's like you have Taurus that's a fixed energy, it's an earth sign, then you have Scorpio, which is wait, another fixed energy, but it's a water sign. And so it's
Hmm.
like there's a little bit more of like room to play. I feel it's a little bit more fluid versus,
Hmm.
yeah, with the Taurus energy, you're going to be focused on like possibly one thing at a time
Hmm.
and just put all your energy into that. So I can totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we love a little heist moment, but yeah,
Right.
what an amazing thing to start the week off with, right?
I
Like in the dark
know.
of the moon, you thought that new moons were going to bring the bang. Well, this dark of the moon with Mercury and Mars in Scorpio certainly brought the bang
Certainly did.
underground. But honestly, the week did not just drop off from there. The week kept going. So, Sanae Takaichi, I'm
Yes.
not, again, sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but
Right.
she has formally been elected as the first female prime minister of Japan on the new moon in
Mhm.
Libra, where you're thinking about
Wow.
balance, right? The idea of the other sex coming online. So,
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
huge moment for
This is a
her.
huge moment. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right.
Anything interesting you see about her chart? Or is there anything you know about Sanae Takaichi, or you just kind of know, like, okay, we got a first prime minister. Let's figure this out now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm more like on the outside. I'm more on the surface, and I just thought it was such a big moment. And
Yes.
so I actually found out through TikTok, and I was like, "What? This is crazy. This is insane." And it says so much about where we're headed, and like as a world unit.
Hmm.
There's so much more feminine power all over the world that's starting to show up. I definitely think that this is very Libra coded as well, in the sense that it's like Libra has that feminine energy that's coming up,
Hmm.
this equality energy that's coming up, as well as the fact that it's like Libra also rules over, how like how things are perceived, the beauty of it, the what it
Mm.
looks like. And so a piece of me also feels like it's like our perception is being changed. And so
Yes.
you can see within Japanese culture that it's like the fact that you guys have this woman now here as your prime minister. I mean, that
Hmm.
the perception is being changed.
Hmm.
The feminine is totally rising, and so
Hmm.
I definitely saw that being new Libra new moon coded. What about you?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, she has a Venus in Aries as well, and she also has a Mars in Cancer natally, you know. So if
Mhm.
you have both those placements in your chart this year, this would have been a more eventful year for you, right? Because we,
Right.
as I said earlier, had the Mars retrograde in Cancer early to start, but then we also had the Venus retrograde in Aries and Pisces.
Yeah.
So she's got a lot of Pisces. She also just came out of an eclipse season with Pisces at 16 degrees. So that was right on the lunar eclipse in Pisces at 15 degrees. And when you think about, she's been such a long serving member in parliament, like she's been there forever, basically. This has been very Capricorn quarter, right? Like something I've waited my whole life to ascend to, which is Jupiter, Saturn in Cap for her. And here's the thing, that is a Jupiter at 28 degrees, Venus at 25, this new moon in Libra hitting Jupiter again and Venus. Like,
Right. Whoa. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
cute, right?
Yes,
Like,
that is so, I love that.
okay. Well, here's
Yeah.
the thing. I wouldn't necessarily celebrate. So we can hold a lot of truths here, multitudes here. Yes, and in Uranus and Gemini status, she may be the first female prime minister, and we can all kind of support that from a feminist perspective.
Yeah.
However, she is probably one of the most conservative figures to emerge
Yeah.
from
Right.
the crew.
Right.
And she, I think, has actively said that Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, is like an idol of hers, right? Like she really wants
Yeah.
to implement those politics. She's very nationalist. I think I saw on them they had posted, oh, she is okay with gay people, but she is saying no to same-sex marriage, right? So like it's still it's
Yeah.
it's a feminine
Yeah.
and the matriarchy is rising,
Right.
but
It's not necessarily like the principles of it that are rising with her.
at this
Right.
junction as of yet. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see like what she ends up doing. I
Right, which
guess.
I think kind of brings back to that perception thing, right? Where it's like, on one hand, it's like this double-edged sword that it's going to
Hmm.
look one way, but then it might not be exactly what we expected it to be. And so that
Hmm.
kind of makes sense. And I think that also makes sense for, her generation as well, where
Hmm.
it's like they tend to just be much more um yes, these are women who had to fight in a way that we will never understand. And we
Hmm.
had to have conversations that we like that we just will never be able, that we have to be grateful for. But part of how they were able to get through the noise was by taking on like the more toxic masculine energy in order to survive, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
part of that means that they ended up kind of just being weapons of them toxic masculine energy
Hmm.
to you know what I mean, to get
Hmm.
and open up the door for the next generations of women who were able to then show up in their feminine and be like in the healthy feminine, which we're continuing to try to do, to create
Hmm.
space for that and create that equality. So to a certain extent,
Yeah.
it's like generationally, yes, I would expect her to have more of a toxic masculine identity
Hmm.
connected to how she's going to rule and control
Hmm.
things. Yeah.
No, I love that. Yeah, and definitely, it is interesting because she, I think, first came on my radar when she was like elected as the head of the political party, not officially prime minister yet. Usually, if you are the head of the leading political party, you then, or the majority, you then become prime minister in
Right.
parliament. But that happened, I believe, around the full moon in Aries. And so
Oh,
now at the new moon in Libra, she's officially prime minister, which
yeah.
I think is also really powerful symbolism, the 1-2 of
Mhm.
that. But yeah, her chart, like, it was really interesting. And again, you don't necessarily need things to hit in the chart for astrology to still be good, but when it does, you're like,
It just is really good. That's why I love that. Because then it's just like it speaks truth to power. That is just like,
hmm
this is real. This is, so for the astrologer, it's like, there's so many times where I see something that I'm like, oh my goodness, like I really love the connection of it. Even
hmm
though I know that the way that it might manifest might not be so beautiful, but it's because of
yes,
the poetry of astrology that it's like, wow, that
hmm
really, just from that standpoint is like,
hmm
I kind of love that it played out like that. I wish it was a little different for the sake of
hmm
people, but at the same
hmm
time, like astrology wise, it's like, wow, that made a lot of sense that it would happen in that way. And the thing is, again, I look at everything as like shadow and light,
yeah,
that this could be something that the potential for the light to shine through darkness is always there. I think we've been in a lot of shadow periods. We're definitely in a shadow period, I think now. So
hmm
we're experiencing and seeing the shadow side of a lot of astrology and a lot of signs and things like that. We're seeing the dark side of the moon kind of vibe.
literally.
And so literally, so I definitely think that, but there will be light at some point, and there is many lights inside of what's going on, so you have to look for that.
Hmm
And so, but I definitely feel like it's like we're witnessing a lot of the shadow self come through, as opposed to the light side of all of these transits when it comes to her, and then the Libra new moon.
Absolutely. I mean, Libra balance, right? You're gonna have some good and you're gonna have some bad. It's gonna be a pretty mixed bag overall. But I do agree, and I think this is why for me I don't doubt that everyone has a bias. Same with astrologers. It would be very difficult to hold a level of objectivity while still caring for humanity. Like it is
Right.
just very difficult to do. And so for me, it's kind of like, well, you can't avoid that, but you can know your astrologer's biases, right? And at the same time, are they able to still speak to the other side when things are happening in a quote unquote positive manner for them, right? Because it's still
Yeah.
energy at the end of the day. It has to go somewhere, and this is what the symbols are telling us. But we it's important to again understand your astrologer's perspective and how
Right.
they talk about everything.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah. I
yeah.
totally agree with that.
But as we were just saying, Libra new moon, there's good, there's bad. So this, we'll go maybe like chaotic neutral on this one.
Yeah, chaotic neutral.
Chaotic neutral on this
Yeah.
one. But I
It's
really
still a
love,
monumental like thing, and in that way we have to respect that, and that's
yeah.
like it's monumental in that way, but it's definitely chaotic energy.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's just because we're also in such a shadow period. So even when we see certain things, it's just not it's not, everything isn't what it seems. It
No.
looks good on one end, but might not be the best in the other.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So arriving at the other end of the scale is Misty Copeland,
Yeah.
who had her final bow this week. I can't believe it, honestly. I feel like she's just been there forever.
Ever. Yeah, exactly. I mean, seriously. So this just feels like what? This just no.
I can't receive this. This
Yes,
is too
exactly.
much. But how poetic, right? Because the
Yeah.
image of Libra, the archetype, is the dancer, the ballerina. And so
Yeah.
you literally have the first black ballerina.
Taking her bow. I love that. I know. And it's like, again, you also think of it as this, beautiful ending to a beautiful career, to a beautiful monumental moment. Again, all of that is very Libra energy, all of
Hmm.
that beauty, all of that, respect, all of that for the arts and things like that. It really is a huge moment, so poetic and beautiful. And what an honor that it's like, no scandals, no this, no that, just a truly beautiful ending to a beautiful career.
Yeah, God, it's so hard these days to like
I
escape
know.
without scandal or, any kind of slander, I guess.
Right,
And
exactly.
it's interesting, because she does have a Venus in Virgo, which and I don't
Mhm.
know where it is in a chart. We don't have Misty's birth time, but you think of Venus in Virgo, you're like, oh, okay, you're probably gonna receive a lot of criticism. And here's the thing, maybe she did receive a lot of this early on. We don't know.
Oh,
It's behind the scenes,
100%.
right?
Yeah. Oh no, because I mean, I behind the scenes, but I also think, when she first came out, the way that people came for her neck, okay, there was a
Hmm.
lot of people who had a lot of opinions, a lot of racism. So I definitely saw that. I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, and I felt that as a black girl, that it's
Hmm.
like to feel some of the things that they would say. And as someone who I wasn't in ballet, but I grew up a gymnast. And so I connect to that. Yeah. And I was always the only black girl. So I
Hmm.
very much connected to her story of being this athlete, being this in this like artistic form, but then being a person of color inside of that space. That I remember those conversations. I remember feeling like, oh, you want a flesh colored leotard, but your flesh colored leotard is white colored. It's
Hmm.
light colored for them, but I'm a dark skinned black girl. Like, how is
Hmm.
this going to work? And her talking about, like, for example, having to paint her ballerina shoes because it didn't
Hmm.
match, and all of those things that it's like, I definitely feel like at the beginning of her career specifically, there was a lot of criticism and a lot of like of her art form and even her desire to be inside of this art form. 100% she was like, definitely not welcome. You know what I mean? It was so
Hmm.
harsh at the beginning. So I can't even
Hmm.
imagine, yes, what was happening behind closed doors, because what was happening on Facebook and what was happening at the time, there was so much hatred for her that
Hmm.
I witnessed in just what I saw online.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. I really
Yeah.
can't even imagine. But I see the Mars in
Yeah, but you
Scorpio. I
see it.
see the Venus in Virgo. It's like and Lilith on the South Node in Cap.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that. And I'm so glad that she was able to persevere through it
Right.
all because what a gift. We would have been
Right.
so robbed as a
We would have been
culture
robbed. Right.
of
And I
such
feel
beauty.
of such beauty. And I think also with like Venus and Virgo, I also think that that speaks to her. She can take it to a certain extent because she can be also very critical of herself, when it comes
Hmm.
to her work, when it comes to her art, when it comes to beauty, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to, so it's almost like, you know what, you can give that to me because I might be a ballerina, but I'm gangsta. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
She's
so it's
hard
like,
edge, yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? And one of the things that she talks about and that she's known for is like when she dances, inside of the ballerina shoes, you can wear these like little sock things, right? And so
Mm.
it's like it keeps your toes from, because ballerina feet are just awful, right?
Right, right.
But, because of all the things that they do. So they really kind of put a lot of pressure on their feet. But she is known for actually, in order to really feel the ground, she doesn't put any socks on. She doesn't put any kind of whatever. So she just, right.
Wow.
So it's a lot of pain for her. But that makes so much sense when you know that her Venus is in Virgo, that to a certain extent, for her, it's part of the process, is
Yes.
that ability to really feel into the art, to really kind of like give your body to the art form. That makes
Hmm.
a lot of sense when it comes to like she's going to be one that pain is beauty kind of vibe.
Oh, wow.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So when it
Yes.
comes to criticism, that's also part of it as well. Like, very strong in that sense, I feel, because of her chart.
Yeah, pain is beauty. I think that's a really
Yeah.
great headline for her chart. It's,
Mhm.
of course, calling out the fact that this new moon, again, 28 degrees Libra on her Pluto's, Saturn's wide orb, but Pluto at 25 degrees. You think about
Mm.
an ending, a transformation, we are winding this down, but also it was her Mars return. you
Mm.
know, um, that Mars and Mercury conjunction on her natal Mars as well. She is, headed off into different pastures now. This was actually also the first performance, it was the last performance of her career, but the first performance I think her son ever got to see.
Yeah, exactly, which is just beautiful, just absolutely
Mhm.
beautiful.
It makes me wonder if this is like such a seeding moment for him, and like if the legacy continues through that form, through his form. But I mean, incredible chart by Misty, but also, not the only major significant first of the day. I don't have this person's chart, unfortunately, but when you think about Libra, you think about fashion. So it was very on brand
Mhm.
for Hermes to announce its first head. First, I think she's the first black head of a fashion
Yeah.
label, right?
Yeah.
Grace Wales Bonner, I think
Yes.
is her name. I mean, again, we don't have a birthday. I literally only saw that she was born in October. So I can only imagine that
Yeah.
she is a Libra or a
Yeah.
Scorpio.
Or Scorpio, one or the other.
Either way, she's
Yeah.
made history, which
Right.
on this Libra new moon, can't ask for
Right.
more.
Right. Which I love that. I was like fashion and equality. Like
Yes.
literally, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like fashion meets equality. And so it's like literally you're seeing this dynamic play out in this monumental moment as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is a theme that Camille and I talk a lot about. So she was appointed the day before Neptune moved back into Pisces, but
Mm.
in Camille does a lot of work with Neptune as well and the Black Condition, and Neptune in Aries kind of felt like this moment of minority rising, if you will, like coming back to
Mm.
reclaim power in the
Yes.
collective consciousness. And you saw that with, the release of Sinners, you got the Met Gala. It was
Yeah.
the Black theme Met Gala this year,
Yes.
so there's something to be said around Neptune and Aries being supportive for
Right.
minorities and the culture to
Moving forward.
rise.
Right, exactly. 100%. Bringing that forward, shedding light and spreading awareness around things that typically we would not actually look at or even consider to be beautiful. We're now reframing what that looks like, which makes a lot
Hmm.
of sense when you consider it to be that Libra energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was gonna say I was almost tempted because this was like a nice little note to end on, but I will say, in theory, we have a couple of things to discuss. Since we're running out of time, I'm gonna give you
Yeah.
the preference to choose
Okay.
which of the two you would like to discuss. So first we
Okay.
have the NBA Mafia gambling ring, which is so Neptune Pisces coded. But
Uh-huh.
then the other matter is, of course, the government shutdown that is now the second longest shutdown, I think,
Yeah.
in history.
Yeah.
So nothing necessarily specific about that, but just, looking at the US chart and then seeing sort of like, is there an end in sight that we can maybe
Right.
point to? But I
I
leave it to
definitely think
you.
we should do the shutdown because I feel like it's
Fabulous.
more, yeah, like like people are trying to figure out how the hell are we going to survive this.
I'm pulling up the Libra new moon on the chart. So again, we are currently in the depths of this government shutdown that really started to take place during, when Mars first started to square Pluto. We had the full moon in Aries with Mercury square Pluto, and then we officially went into shutdown. So now at this Libra new moon, admittedly, I thought maybe that there would be some more life. There would maybe be a
Right.
change or a turning point at this Sun Pluto square happening today in the sky.
Yeah.
Yet, what I've just heard
Mhm.
is they have effectively shut down negotiations for this week. They have
Mhm.
taken the Monday vote off the table, which
Yeah.
means that we are seeing this shutdown, in fact, literally hit November 1
Yeah,
at
right.
this moment in time.
Ugh.
I have the US Sibley chart up right now.
Yeah.
And as you can see, as with the Sagittarius rising,
Mhm.
all of this Scorpio is happening in the 12th house.
House. Right, right. Yeah, no, that's heavy. I feel like it's like there's so much when I'm looking at it, it's just like it doesn't give me a lot of hope. It doesn't give me a lot of
Hmm.
like it definitely gives me vibes of just this is not gonna, but at the same time it's like I feel like I've said this before.
Hmm.
We're in a lot of the shadow periods right now. So we're really experiencing what it actually looks like to experience the shadow period. Oh yeah, go ahead and pull up November 1st. That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm so curious because
Yeah.
you know, even Cardi B's getting involved, right? Like
Yeah, I
everyone
know.
is getting, I think everyone's becoming more aware of the fact that this is like a real imminent problem that is hitting the
Right.
holidays, that this is
Yeah.
gonna be so bad, like so
Right.
incredibly bad. Um,
Mm.
so SNAP benefits expire November 1st. There's a moon conjunct the North Node happening that day as well in Pisces.
Mm. So still lack of clarity there.
Still lack of clarity, but I don't know, man, because moon and when the moon conjuncts the North Node, it kind of almost feels like abandonment, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of does feel like there's a sense of the collective being abandoned, especially Saturn in wide orb to the North Node also does not
Mm.
feel particularly great. I mean, this is also very interesting, all of this happening amidst the White House demolition.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. It's very, I just saw this online, somebody talking about um I think Marie Antoinette, and it's like very like,
Yes,
let them eat cake kind of thing.
yes.
It's very much that's what it's giving right now at this
Hmm.
time. Yeah,
Hmm.
100%.
I must admit it was hilarious when I thought about, oh yeah, that makes sense. With the Scorpio, with Mars and Mercury, we're transforming the form, and Venus in
Yeah.
Libra, right, where it's like all about aesthetics, the gold
Yeah.
ballroom, like how things
Right.
look rather than how things actually are.
Are. Right.
But again, Jupiter we think of as like the planet that is the great benefic. But in this
Mhm.
case, in Cancer, it's magnifying hunger.
Yeah.
And when you think about security and nest eggs, that's Cancer as well.
Mm.
Jupiter is on the Mercury retrograde of the United States, and we are going into a Mercury retrograde period, which means November will be a very, very consequential month coming
Right.
up.
Yeah, I think we'll have to be very careful with our mindset. I think we'll have to be very careful about what we focus on because I do think that we're going into a very dark time. I feel it's already been
Hmm.
that way, but I also think that the other thing was Jupiter squaring Chiron. That I
Hmm.
feel like that's why that also kind of contributes to where it's like our luck is not. There's a tension between our luck and our healing, so it's
Hmm.
coming there, it's not coming straight at us at this point. Which
Yeah.
then if healing isn't coming straight at us, if luck isn't coming straight at us, then what's coming at us? You know what I mean? And in
Hmm.
my mind, I think of hardship, I think of difficulty, I think of the wounds that we need to heal, but all of a sudden they're going to be exposed. And it's
Hmm.
almost like, like again, like there's even darkness around Jupiter. So that's where it's like
Yeah.
the one planet that we kind of look for to say, oh, well, look in the chart for this kind of hope. It's now
Hmm.
kind of, again, almost like with that moon and North Node, that abandonment feeling where it's like, where is it? Where is the hope? Where is the joy? That I definitely feel like that the shutdown can be connected to that Jupiter squaring Chiron.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, also take a look at November 1st. Jupiter is squaring Venus. Venus is applying to that square with
Mm,
Jupiter,
yeah,
and Chiron, right? You got a
yeah,
cardinal T square. So
that's
there is almost this idea of a difficulty in initiating also, right? Like you're being pulled in different directions. You're being pulled in terms of fairness, but then
mm,
Jupiter in Cancer, which I think you can take to represent the current administration and the
mm,
hoarding of power in the administration, right? Because again, Jupiter works, it's indiscriminate. It is working with what you're putting out there. And so
right,
if you
right,
are, let's say, a bad guy who is
yeah,
looking to use Jupiter for, to access your mission or to get you closer to your goals, Jupiter is going to play out in that way for you, right? So
right,
if the United States is concerned about taking care of its billionaire class, about its wealthy elite, not necessarily sharing as caring energy, you can
mm,
kind of see that in the Venus Libra Jupiter square tension in Cancer,
right,
on the United States Chiron. So
mm,
it's admittedly very difficult, right? Like it's hard for me also as a Sag moon to not feel like I can give any optimism or, this idea of like when can we expect this to be over? But
right.
the reality is we're now in Mercury retrograde territory.
So it's even darker. Yeah,
It's just gonna get, I was hopeful it was gonna get resolved maybe this week before retrograde. But the
yeah.
moment we entered retrograde, it was like,
Oh no,
shit,
this is not looking good.
we're
Right. No, that's
prolonging
how I
it.
felt too. That it was just like I'm very nervous because of the fact that it's like if again moving closer and closer to Mercury retrograde, how is this going to play out when it comes to the shutdown? Because
Yeah.
just energetically, we're not in a space of wanting to work together, wanting to have clarity, wanting to communicate well. We're not going to be in that space. And so it's already going to be and we can see that already where there is this lack of communication. They're not even like Bernie was talking about this, and so is AOC, where they're like, there's literally not even conversations happening. So it's like some of the people aren't even in town, and
Yeah.
so because of that, there's no room to actually argue or fight. There's no
Yeah.
person to talk to. And
Yeah.
so what he was saying was like, they're out, they're doing their things, we're fighting, but we're wanting to have conversations. They're not even doing that. That it's like, okay, that's not going to get better once the planet of communication goes into retrograde, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, it almost makes me a little terrified too, because obviously, like, the one bright spot maybe that you can think about in politics at this moment in time is very New York centric, but Zoran Mamdani, of course,
Yes. Yeah.
having such a powerful moment on the debate stage these last couple of weeks. He just had his final debate with Cuomo and Curtis, LOL, Curtis, bless
Yeah,
you.
I was like, right, barely
Bless
there.
bless you, Ratzar. But when you think about, and I think I just saw a headline come in, Hakeem Jeffries finally endorses Zoran Mamdani as of today, Sun Pluto. So it's a big
Oh,
moment, that you
yeah.
can maybe think of, even though the current reality of things are brutal, they look terrible. I've been seeing also so many beautiful pockets of, like collective support step up,
Yeah.
whether it's people raising money for SNAP benefits so that people can have
Yeah.
food. Like you really do get to see this idea of community building in the
Yeah.
truest form. Because admittedly, right, like as a plutonic person, I'm it's hard to build community in good times. Like in theory, it
Yeah.
is easy, right? Because everyone's vibing, we're all on the same page. But when push comes to shove, and what really matters is how you step up for your community when things are hard, when you're
Yeah.
also inconvenienced, right? So there's, we were talking about the Sabian symbol of this lunation about conscious participation in community. How do you get community if you don't participate in community? But how do you show up for your community in a way that, again, might inconvenience you, but it's the grown up, adult, mature thing to do at the
Right,
table?
right. Yes. And I think like that is the hope. I was literally just having this conversation with my mother last night.
Mm.
And we were just talking about not from the astrology perspective, because she's definitely got into that, but but from the perspective of having hope and
Mhm.
trying to find that. And I was telling her that a lot of this is going to come down to being very mindful of what we choose to consume, being
Yeah.
mindful of the conversations that we're having, being mindful that we give back. Because one of those things that it's like, when you feel like you're helpless, then you feel like, well, what's the point? Why am I doing this? What's the point? And it's like, for example, one of the things that that I had suggested to her to do was, donate food to a food bank.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
know that food banks right now are going to be they're going to be swamped by people.
Yeah.
So if you have extra food, if you have, pads for women who need pads and things like that, and or anyone who needs pads. But that's where it's like all of those types of things that you're not necessarily thinking about, those
Yeah.
ways that we can contribute and give back and take care
Yeah.
of things. And so that's where it's like just that's what's going to give you that hope is if you give back in any capacity that you can, and then just be
Mm-hmm.
mindful of what you're consuming online, on TV, all these things. Don't shut it down so you're not paying attention to what's happening, but just temper it so that way you're not becoming so manipulated into the fear of what's happening, and
Mm-hmm.
keep showing up for your people. And I think like that can be very helpful, especially when I know right now it's like being in Chicago, there's just so
Mm-hmm.
much darkness right now happening in this area.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's like it's having to be very mindful about how can I protect my community? How can I show up for them? How can I, protect kids? How can I bring light when there's so much darkness right now?
Mm-hmm.
Has to be the focus, because if not, then you will just be consumed by the amount of darkness, and that's what they want.
Yes, absolutely. And again, reminder, Pluto is out of bounds to the south in Aquarius, meaning your efforts aren't as futile as you might think if you are
Mhm.
trying to work in favor of the people.
Yes.
And
Oh,
maybe that's the optimistic note. Maybe that is. And if you choose to ingest the news, we are so thankful you choose to ingest it
yes.
via this medium where you're learning some astrology while
Right.
also tickling your ADHD. Okay.
Exactly. Yes. This is like I get all my news from like Jimmy Kimmel, from like the Daily Show, because I'm like I need to stay updated, but I need it to come at me with like some sort of hope and humor.
Well, it's also interesting because, again, with all the Scorpio in the air and
Yeah.
Libra, like you don't know where you can trust because
Yeah.
media is currently being consolidated and bought, and there's a conservative agenda being pushed. And it's, again, really important you understand the biases of the people you're consuming your news from.
From, yes, exactly. 100%. Totally agree with that.
Absolutely.
Ah,
Well,
love this.
Lexi, thank you for this riveting hour-ish conversation. I always try to do an hour, but it always just ends up anyway longer than
Gotta
that.
follow the flow.
Gotta follow the flow, but I will have all your information below. As you heard earlier, Lexi is an amazing photographer, so if you're in Chicago, need a headshot,
Yeah, you got that. And if you need a birth chart reading too, then we can do that too during your photography session.
it's a whole day. It's a whole
It's a
date. Do
whole
this.
day. I
Honestly,
love
that
that.
should be like a whole thing for you. You should do like a LOL, the way I'm like about to give you an offering live now,
I
but like
know, this is
but
awesome.
But like maybe like, this was a seed point for it, but maybe you should do like a business offering where it's like, let's give you your professional headshots. Let's also do a tailored birth chart brand reading,
Yes, which is like,
like a
I love
whole
that.
like a whole package, you know what I mean?
Yes,
You get
I,
two
girl,
headshots, you
you
get a
guys heard
free
it here. You
reading.
heard it
I'm
here.
just saying, if that's interesting to you, reach out to Lexi
I
because she's
love
your girl
that.
for it.
Exactly, exactly. Oh, I love that idea.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Well, everyone, as always, thank you so much for subscribing. Share with your Astro besties. I'll be back with another weekly-ish recap soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye.